Okay, welcome back to another vid, a pickups vid. It's been a while since I made one. In fact, it's been a while since I made any vid. A couple of months, or at least nearly 2 months, I think, which is just ridiculous. I've been lazy, of course I have, but it's so hot. Oh, whinging already. But it is, you know, that kind of warmth or that heat. When you walk into a room and within seconds you're feeling sticky. It's like I've had to roll the old sleeves up. Bit of arm skin for you there, you lucky devils. And honestly, I just want to take this off. I'm not gonna, for obvious reasons, but it's that kind of heat, and it's just too much. It is too much. I looked at like a weather forecast for the next 10 days, and it's not going to get any better weather-wise. It's going to be hot, and bring on the rain, roll on the winter. But that's a while off, isn't it? So, jeez. So yeah, I've just been very busy. But sometimes, you know, I mean, we all talk on YouTube in the community. You know, when you've not made a vid for a while, we're always like, you know, well, you can't force it. Don't force it. Well, sometimes you've got to. Sometimes you have to force yourself, because otherwise the 2 months will turn into 4 months, 6 months, and then before you know it, and we've all seen it with YouTubers, their channels just fade away because they lose motivation, I think, because they just haven't done it for a long, long time, and then they just get used to not making vids. So I kind of had to force myself to do this, but I want to do it, obviously. It's not like I force myself to do it and I don't want to. I want to do it. It's just a case of, even though it's boiling outside and inside, I thought, just for you, this is what I do for you. I thought I'll do a pickles vid. And then maybe next Friday, because I don't think I'm going to get an opportunity for the rest of this week to do it, maybe next Friday I'll do a brew, so a vlog. If I can do it this week, I will. It's probably going to be next week. If not, I guess it'll be after that. But I'm going to aim for next Friday. So that is that. So yeah, I've got a few games to show on the Mega Drive, the 360, the Amiga, the SNES, and the PS2. And also one on the PS1. This isn't a new pickup, I've had this for absolutely ages, but the reason I want to mention this is because I was watching a video, and it's kind of like a shout out really. I was watching a video a couple of months back, 3 months back, whenever it was, and it was by a relatively new YouTuber, or new uploader at least, and his name is Eddie, and it's Rollercore, that's the name of his channel. It says Roller X Core, but apparently you don't pronounce the X. What's it there for then? But no, I'm only joking, it's Rollercore. So I know when I shouted out, well, several people of late, one of them Sega Zombie, and I know a lot of you went over, which is really good, and subscribed to him. And I know Alex Nintendo Arcade also shouted him out like a week or two before, so a heck of a lot of people went over there as well, from the other Alex's shout out. So yeah, thank you for that. And if you can please check out Eddie's channel, I think you'll really like it. He's a really chilled out lad. He's got a really good collection of stuff. PS1, like I say, I'm going to talk about this in a second, this Psychic Detective. Even though it's kind of redundant now, but just in case Eddie's watching, I will show it. He probably won't care anymore, but it's the first time I've had to, first opportunity I've had to make this vid since I left a comment on his vid, so that's why I'm doing it. And it'll make more sense in a second. So yeah, he's got a big PS1 collection, and PS2 collection's even bigger. It looks like he's got hundreds of bloody games for that. Xbox 360, Amiga, he pretty much buys everything, within reason. So if you like your pickup vids, and someone who really does care about his games, he's quite knowledgeable as well. So it's not just someone who's randomly just holding up a load of games. You know, he knows his stuff, and it's really interesting to see. So yeah, basically what happened is I was replying to some comments on a vid 2 or 3 months back, whenever it was, and I was just going down there replying as you do, and it came to Rollercore, Eddie's channel, or his username. And so I answered his point, whatever point he'd made on my vid, and then I added something along the lines of, you know, slightly paraphrasing, I was like, you know, by the way, I said, did you used to leave comments on my vid years ago, or videos years ago? Like, I'm talking like a long, long time ago, like 4, 5, 6 years. And he replied back and he was like, yeah. He says, I did. He said he used to be a big kind of part of the community in terms of watching people, but he didn't really upload gaming stuff. He says, but I have now. He says, I've started, you know, a month or two ago, whenever it was. He said, so if you get an opportunity, you know, please check my channel out. So I did. I checked it out, and it gets, like I said, it's a really good channel. Link in the description box, Eddie's channel, Rollercore, check it out, drop a subscription, drop a sub, sound like I'm 17, subscribe to his channel even, and I'm sure you'll like his stuff. He's just really nice, chilled out guy, so that's that. But basically, on this PS1 vid, and you should watch it as well because it's really good, it's got a lot of quality, but on Eddie's PS1 vid, he stumbled upon this game and he showed it, and he said it's kind of weird because for him, he's got a PAL Psychic Detective, like I say, like I've got, but his manual for some reason didn't fit in the case, and he couldn't figure it out. And I thought it was extra weird because, as I say, clearly I've got it, and mine does fit. Now, long story short, and I did say this on Eddie's vid, but I think if I get my instruction manual out, so here we go, there's the first disc, and here's the instruction manual, and then if you open it at the back, you get the other 2 discs. So I think Eddie has got a PAL UK case, but a PAL European instruction manual, because his instruction manual is significantly bigger than my one. As you can see, it's relatively thin. In fact, it's just 41 pages. So there's hardly anything to this, and it is English in its entirety, from start to finish, completely in English. And of course, with a lot of PAL games in the PS1, they're multi-language, aren't they? With German, French, Spanish, Scandinavian sometimes. So I think, like I say, Eddie's got a PAL case, and maybe the previous owner had a loose manual, and he tried to put it in, and it will just go in here, basically. See, mine drops in pretty simply, it's pretty flat, and then just close it. But because Eddie's manual is so much bigger, because the more languages in there, then it doesn't close properly. So I think that's the score with that one, Eddie. It was a couple of months ago we had this conversation, so you've probably long forgotten about it, if you're even watching. So, but there we go. So mine, anyway, fits completely, and I just think mine is a standard PAL UK version. And I remember buying this game as well. It's funny how you can remember certain things. So it would have been, I'm going to guess 96. 1996. And I remember buying this from Toys R Us. And on a bit of a whim, I just went into Toys R Us, 96, 17 years of age, 17 or 18, depending on whatever month it was. And went in there just looking to spend some money. And I think all the other games that were really big I already had at that point. So I just bought this one on a whim. And I liked the look of it at the time. It's, if you can even work it out, it's basically a full motion video game where you kind of, all the acting is taking place in front of you and you can choose to ask questions, and it's rubbish, really. But at the same time, it's quite nostalgic. So yeah, I remember buying it, and then on the way back, I remember just coming into my street, and my dad was just leaving to go to work or something, I guess, like a night shift maybe, being a policeman. And just funny how you remember that. I just remember coming around the corner and him kind of rolling down his window and go, "Oh, where have you been?" I was like, "Oh, just been to Toys R Us." Not that he's a gamer, he couldn't care less. But it's just, isn't it really weird how you remember certain things? So that was the day that I bought Psychic Detective. So anyway, yeah, please check out Eddie's channel. The last time I looked, he only had about 100 and something subscribers, which is ridiculous. But of course, it's a new channel, and in this day and age especially, it's really hard to get people watching. So please check his channel out. I'm relying on you to click on that link. And that's that. Now behind me, we'll go on to the pickups now, you can see a game, you may have already seen it in the background, the name of it. It is Hellfire on the Sega Mega Drive. Now I've wanted this for absolutely ages. I mean, I'll do the whole boxed complete thing, even though the cartridge is clearly being used behind me. So it's in really good nick, apart from a missing hang tab, which winds me up something chronic. I know it shouldn't, but it does. So yeah, I've been wanting this for absolutely ages. Years, really. I think it came out in, well, it says 1989 and 1991. So I guess an early game. So yeah, but I wouldn't say I've been wanting it since 1991, but certainly since, I'd say, the mid to late 90s. But for whatever reason, I just hadn't picked it up, you know, because there's so many other games out there and you forget about it. And then what it was, speaking of Sega Zombie, I went over to his channel probably, I don't know, 2-3 months back, and I was watching a vid. And in fact, it was the video with Alex Nintendo Arcade where they did the room tour. That was the one. So was it on his channel or was it on Alex's channel? Either way, whichever one. And they briefly, Sega Zombie briefly talked about this and saying how good it was. And it reminded me, I've got to get that game. So I went onto eBay, and I think a couple of days later picked it up. And I had to import it, but it was relatively cheap. I only paid about £6 for shipping. And probably maybe, I think it's about £17 for the game. So pretty good, considering that a lot of shooters, you know, are quite costly. And I'm just surprised. I thought it was going to go for a lot more. So really pleased to get it. It's a really good game. Now, one of the cool features that I like about this, I should say that I'm rubbish at it, by the way, but I am having fun with it. So you may be able to see behind. But you've basically got 4 weapons. And every time you change the weapon, it changes the colour of the ship. And that can be done by pressing the B button on the Mega Drive controller, or Genesis. Call it what you will. Mega Drive then. So yeah, so the first one starts out, it's like your ship is pink. That is by like default, and that shoots forwards. So all oncoming enemies, aliens, spaceships, all that kind of thing, then that's how you shoot them. If you press the B button again, it turns, what colour is it? I think it's yellow, and it shoots behind. Press the B button again, and it turns green, and you can shoot above you and below you. So you can go in between enemies who are above and below you, and in theory, shoot them. And then the last one, your ship turns blue, and it's diagonal. 4 lots, I think, of diagonal bullets are sprayed, which really helps. So depending on what situation you're in, because you might be thinking, oh, you can just pick one of them and use it for the entire game. That's not how it works. You need to mix it up. It's quite tactical, because there's certain enemies that are like hidden at certain angles. They're shooting at you, and the only way, presuming you want to kill them and you just don't want to dodge them and move on, then the only way to kill them and to destroy them is to change your weapon. So like to a diagonal one, or one which shoots up. Like I say, depending on the scenario that you find yourself in. So yeah, there's an element of tactics behind it, quite frankly. So I really like it. I think the music's really cool as well. Really kind of catchy theme tune in a very Sega Mega Drive-y way, with that kind of weird kind of bassy sound that it's got. But I do like it. So yeah, just really surprised that it's not going for more than what I got it for, because I wouldn't be surprised in the future if this turns into like a 50, 60 quid game. But then again, maybe not. You know, 1991, here we are, you know, well over halfway really now through 2019, and you're still looking about sort of 20, 25 quid on average. So maybe now's the time to get it. But check it out, it's really good. And as you can see, it's behind me as I just slapped my leg for no reason there. So next up is a game. Now I bought this, is another Mega Drive one, another one missing the hang tab. What's all this about? And that game is, I'm not going to open it all up, you can hear it inside. That game is Taz-Mania. Now, in my previous vlog, or maybe the one before it, I talked about how my cousin had a Mega Drive or a Genesis, I couldn't quite remember, back at the turn of the 90s. And I listed a load of games, name-dropped many games, like E-Swat and Moonwalker, Altered Beast, Kid Chameleon, all games that he had. One game I don't think I mentioned in that vid that he had, or another one that he had, was this. So I bought it back, if you like, for nostalgic purposes. And I've got to be honest, it's not very good. It's not dreadful. It's basically just a platformer, a side-scroller platformer game. The problem with it, the first thing I noticed actually was that the music is poor. The sense of immersion in the game, because of the sound effects, which are minimal to say the least, is it's not even there. The sense of immersion is not very good. The playability, it's not that it's bad, it can be a little bit kind of clunky in places. The animation is good on Taz, I'll give you that, and on some of the enemies, that's quite well done. But the distinct lack of music or quality of music, it's just this like really dour, just monstrosity of a noise going on in the background. You'll have to check out some YouTube footage from someone else. I'm not going to nick it and put it on my channel, even though I'm tempted. But yeah, if you check it out, it's just not very good. It's really, really poor. The graphics themselves are alright. They're a little bit plain, really, but they do the job. Like I say, animation's decent. Playability, it's okay, but it's a little bit stiff and a little bit clunky. But the biggest problem I have with this is the game really, it almost is a muscle memory game. So it's remembering what to do, but usually after you've died in the game. So you've basically got to die to realise what to do next time, which is really frustrating. So for example, you could go to the edge of a cliff and you don't know where to go, because as far as you can see to the right, there's no ledges to jump on. So you're thinking, well, do I try and jump or do I just drop? But if you drop, are you going to land on some spikes? Is it going to be like land in some water? You've no idea what's going to happen. So it's just trial and error. So you'll drop down, you'll inevitably probably lose a life, but then as you are dropping down and losing that life, you'll see that if you were to jump to the right a little bit, then it will be all right. So next time you get to the same stage, you jump a little bit right, but it's rinse and repeat. It's getting to the edge of a cliff and, you know, having to guess basically what to do. So it's really frustrating. There's also these bombs that you can pick up as well, and when you pick them up, sometimes I've noticed you eat them and it replenishes your energy, and on other occasions it can kill you. But sometimes they're hidden behind platforms, so you don't get to see them. So you pick them up by accident, and because they're hidden. And like I say, it's a muscle memory, so the only time you get to figure out where they are is on the next playthrough, that you think to yourself, all right, that's it, I've got to not go there, I've got to jump over that, because if you go behind it, you'll pick it up. Really, really frustrating. So that's Taz-Mania. It was only cheap. It's only about $5. So, yeah, if you can pick it up for cheap, fair enough, but don't go out of your way to get it. Okay, next up, we've got a couple for the Xbox 360. So this is a game which I picked up probably maybe, I don't know, about 6 weeks ago, give or take. Could even have been a bit further back from that, to be honest. And it's called Dead to Rights Retribution. So if you're interested in the spines, they may be different in PAL regions, who knows? Boxed and complete, of course. And yes, it's basically just a first-person shooter, kind of open world kind of thing, semi-open world, more of a first-person shooter. And yeah, it's funny because I know this game came out on the original Xbox, not this particular one. I think it's just Dead to Rights, this one being Retribution. I don't know if it's a sequel or like a kind of a reboot, but it definitely came out on the Xbox. Maybe the PS2, I'm not sure. But I don't think, to my knowledge anyway, I've played either of those in the past. So this is my first introduction to the Dead of Rights, or Dead to Rights franchise, if you like, although I don't think there's been one since, so quite a short-lived franchise. But yeah, I will say that actually it's pretty good overall, and for a game which to me was relatively hidden, kind of a hidden gem, dare I say, yeah, I enjoyed it. But it didn't start off that way, because basically you play this guy who's a cop called Jack, I forget his last name, and you've kind of got to avenge, I won't reveal the exact plot, you've got to avenge things which have happened. And you've got a justifiable reason as well, I will say that, to want to get that revenge. But at the start of the game, after the little kind of opening sequence, the first thing you get to do is to control the dog called Shadow, who you can see on there, looking very happy on the front. And I will be honest, because like I say, this franchise is new to me, this game series, I don't know what it was about. So I was like, surely to God, you are not controlling the dog throughout the game's entirety. Surely not. Because it's really like kind of twitchy when you're controlling it as well. It's not that it was bad. It would just like, you'd move left with the analog stick and he jolts like really fast, like back and forth. And it's like, I'm not going to get used to this. Of course you do, because practice makes perfect. But anyway, so that sequence didn't last too long. You've just got to, I think Jack's like walking through, he's kind of half injured at the time as well. So he's got to walk through to like the end of the level. It's like a mini level really. And all these people are shooting at him and you've got to kill the bad guys to obviously help Jack walk through to the end of the level. So it doesn't last too long in the scheme of things. But I didn't like it. I thought this game, I hope it doesn't carry on like this. And to be fair, it didn't. Pretty much straight away, you're in control of Jack, and then it just turns into a standard first-person shooter kind of game. Although there are one or two other occasions where you do control Shadow, but it's done quite well. Like you've kind of got your dog vision, and I think the screen is like kind of a very dark blue, and you can see like the skeletal figures of the enemies, so you know where they are. And you've got to go quietly, of course. There's a lot of stealth involved in the dog sections. And then you've just got to wait for them to kind of get to a secretive place, or a place where they're hidden away from all their other colleagues, bad guys if you like, and you've got to take them out one by one, find a key, and then take it back to Jack or whoever. And so it's very simplistic, but it's done quite well. So now I talked, when was it? Again, maybe 2-3 months back, in a previous vlog about a game called Time Shift, which I played and finished on the 360. And I said how that was very gory, and it is. And this probably takes it to a new level. This is really gory, so if you're into that kind of stuff, you might like it. So there's kind of an element of like a Max Payne where the screen will slow down, or like a Red Dead Redemption or something like that. And yeah, you can shoot people, you can take the guns off them and shoot them, and it's very, very gory, but it's very satisfying as well. I don't know what that says about me, who kind of gets a kick out of doing things like that. But I'm not really one of those kind of people. I don't really like too much gore. Not really in modern games. When it's something like this, because the graphics, they're not that great in comparison to modern stuff, I don't mind it, but I do have a bit of an issue with like the PS4 and Xbox One, because it doesn't look realistic, but it's edging ever closer, isn't it? Anyway, I don't mean to sound like some kind of prude, because I'm not, but I don't like it to be too graphic. But yeah, this is kind of very much borderline. Or very graphic for last generation at least. So if you like that kind of thing, then you might get a kick out of that. There's a lot of weapons as well. I was quite impressed with that. Playability-wise, it's all right. But the big problem with this game, and I think if any of you have played it, or if any of you do in the future, what you'll inevitably find very early on as well, is that the camera angle at times is a bloody nuisance. It doesn't ruin the game whatsoever, because I played it and I finished the game and I did enjoy it. But there's a number of times where the camera is solely responsible for you losing a life. Now, I'm going to hazard a guess that I maybe lost maybe 10 lives in the entirety of the game from the start to the finish. And I reckon 8 of those were entirely, exclusively down to the camera angle. Maybe like I was at one angle and there was a guy behind me, but I'd turn around to try and get him, and the screen would shift round and it would make me to kind of fall off a ledge. It was like, I just didn't do that. Why would I jump off a ledge? It was ridiculous. So that kind of thing happens. If there's not a ledge there, it'll be like there's an enemy there and you're walking towards him, and it's like the game knows you want to kind of start fighting with him, or you want to shoot at him, because you can kick and punch as well as use your weapons. But the game will kind of change your angle and say to you, like, oh no, why don't you try this angle instead? But it's actually more of a hindrance. So yeah, it doesn't help when it does that. But overall, ignoring that, which is annoying, if you can ignore that and see, you know, beyond it, I think you'll quite like it for a cheap game. And I do think it's relatively unknown. I mean, I'd not heard of it, so I think maybe a lot of other people haven't as well, but it might just be me in the minority, I don't know. But I thought it was really good under the circumstances for a cheap kind of game, and yeah, check it out. So it's Dead to Rights Retribution on the Xbox 360. And then the other 360 game I bought, and I'm not going to elaborate on this because I've yet to start it on the 360, but I'm maybe halfway through it on the PS3. So you're probably thinking, why have you bought it again if you've already got it for the PS3? Basically, the PS3, as I've said before, it's in the bedroom and has been for the 5 or 6 years we've lived in this house. So every time I want to play on the PS3, I've kind of got to unplug it, bring it into this, you know, games room, just a spare room really, and set it up. And all right, it takes 2 minutes. It's not a long time, but it's a hassle. And I've got the 360 already down there, so it's a case of just get it for the 360, and yeah, just less hassle setting things up. And that game it's really good as well. It's the Saboteur. So again, apologies for any glare that you're going to see because of the sun and the angle as well of the computer. So yeah, a really good game. I love the film noir kind of black and white or yellow and grey and kind of red as well from like the swastika Nazi armbands. It just looks really cool. And yeah, when you kind of liberate parts of Paris, it turns into like colour, and it's sunny and daytime. And like I say, when it isn't, when it's occupied territory, it's all dark and gloomy and rainy. Honestly, it's a really good game. It's a big open world game, essentially. There's a lot of choices to do. You can do the standard missions, or you can just go off and find like little groups of Nazi soldiers where they've got like kind of ammunition dumps and stuff that you can blow up. You don't have to do it, but you can if you want to get like extra contraband and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really good game. Another one, I mean, I don't know what the reputation amongst gamers is for this, but I think it's pretty good. But this one is really, really good. I really like it. Definitely comes recommended. And the music is fantastic as well, from that kind of wartime kind of French music. And it just fits the scene and the vibe really, really nicely indeed. So the Saboteur, brilliant. You've got to get it. PS3 or 360, either way, you've got to get it. It's really good. So yeah, let's move on to the Amiga. Just the one Amiga game. I had this years ago on the Atari ST, but when I sold a load of games about a year and a half ago, a load of games I wasn't really bothered about, although in hindsight, maybe there's one or two I should have kept. But one of the games I did get rid of was this. I bought it back, it was really cheap. Got it on the Amiga this time as well, and that game is Powermonger. And I love these little boxes. I used to have this as a kid as well, so this is nothing new to me. So it's kind of a nostalgic purchase too. So yeah, it's basically a God Sim. Again, you possibly won't be able to work out too much from the back. There's the generals on the back there. Again, because the glare, you can't really see it. So yeah, like an overhead view, over the top, 3D isometric viewpoint. And you've just got to basically build an army and conquer the world, essentially. Invade villages, keep your soldiers happy, and your villagers, and feed them, and give them rest and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's simplistic in a way, because of course it's a 16-bit game. But it's still good. I'm still having fun with it. Maybe it's nostalgia, I don't know, but I still think it holds up pretty well. So, I don't know if you heard that. Oh, it's so bloody loud out there. Bloody truck going by. Although the last time I noticed that, I whinged about that happening. When I watched the video back, you couldn't really hear it. So, but trust me, it was loud. So we've got 3 games left, and then a bit of a peripheral at the end. And the first game, it's still in its little kind of box protector, but the box protector's got a sticker on. It really annoys me. So I'm going to have to get rid of that. And that game is, and I've wanted this for so long on the SNES, it's the Addams Family. PAL game, of course. And yeah, a bit of spine action for you. And there's the back as well. So it's just a platform game, essentially. But I have wanted this for a long, long time. pretty much since it came out, to be honest. But again, much like Hellfire on the Mega Drive, you just forget about it. There's so many hundreds upon hundreds of games out there that you want to get. And yeah, you put it on the back burner to the point where it's been on the back burner for a quarter of a century, which is just absolute insanity. So I really like it. I will say it's kind of deceptively tough. It really is, because you think with a platform it should be pretty standard. You just time your jumps, you jump on the enemies' heads. It does not always work out that way. It is difficult, especially when you've got these swinging kind of like balls and chains and stuff, and spikes that appear. And also there's some levels where it's kind of like very icy, so you slide, and then it makes it even more harder and more difficult to time your jumps onto the next level. So, but yeah, it is really good. The music's really good. The graphics are really good. Now, even though I've waited a long, long time to get this game, I kind of had it in a way on my Atari ST back in the early 90s. This is the same kind of game, but there's a few differences, like you used to get a lot back then between the console version and the computer version. So I've kind of played it, but not the SNES version, which I've wanted, like I say, since I was a kid. Since I got my SNES back for Christmas '92, so a long, long time ago. I think this probably came out the following year, to be honest, '93. I can't quite see it on the back. It says 91, but I think that relates to the movie, doesn't it? Which I do want to watch as well very soon. It'll be the first time since then. I remember seeing it at the cinema, so I'll talk about it in a future vlog, I'm sure, whenever I do sit down and watch The Addams Family. So yeah, really pleased to get it. I think it was around about sort of 25 quid. I have seen it go for a lot more in the past, so pleased to get it for that price. And condition-wise, it's pretty good. I mean, the danger, as a lot of you will know with Super Nintendo games, you can't really tell because it's in its box protector, but it's actually quite good. There's a couple of little notches around the side, but overall it's actually in very good shape. But yeah, a lot of the problems with SNES games is that many people make reproduction boxes. You can usually tell straight away that the colours are so vibrant they don't look right at all, and when you open up the box, the cardboard is sometimes white or a different shade of grey, so you can usually tell what's fake and what isn't. But something like this is not going to be a fake, because, well, and I just know it isn't for a fact anyway. But who's got it? It's not a rare game, not really. It's relatively uncommon to get for a decent price, maybe, but it's not rare, so people are not going to fake that box. So that's that one. Really, really pleased to get it, and it's really good. And I will say as well that there's a kind of an element of open worldness to this as well. It's not just a case of, right, you start off on level 1, you progress, you get to the end, and then you move on to level 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. It's not that. It's almost like at any stage you can go through any door you want, and you can kind of choose your own adventure, like those books from like the 80s. So yeah, it's kind of like that to a very large degree, which I like. I like because if there's a particular level which you're a little bit stuck on, then you can just think, do you know what, I'm going to avoid that. I'm going to go through a different door and I'll do this level first. And there's a lot of secrets as well, a lot of secrets in the game, where sometimes it gives you a bit of a clue and a hint as to what to do and where these secrets are. Other times it doesn't. So it's up to you. You can just find things by chance, by jumping up into a ledge which isn't there, but you'll think to yourself, I wonder if there's one if I kind of jump up and then push right or left, whatever, on the controller. And sometimes you'll enter like a bonus room and there'll be like 15 one-ups or extra health and all that kind of stuff. So some nice little touches. Old school gaming at its finest. So the next SNES game is one which, again, I've wanted for a long, long time. The funny thing about this is I did pick it up, the American version, on the SNES, and it would have been on a pickup vid maybe a year or two ago. And that game on the American SNES is called, I think, Soccer Champ. Now this one, I think it's called something like that anyway. This one is called Euro Football Champ, so this is the PAL version. But bizarrely, even though in English there it says the arcade hit, on the back it's all in German, because this is, funnily enough, the German version. I think there's an Italian version and a Spanish version. It didn't even get a PAL UK version, which is just madness. Not just because it's a football game, so it should be sold in the UK, but also it came out around about the time of the European 92 Championships. So Euro 92, which was hosted in Sweden. So, you know, when you take that into consideration, they could have used the license, and it's a big football game. It's coming out at the time of a big competition, a big tournament in real life. Why on earth didn't this come out in the UK? It's bizarre. A very odd decision. But it didn't, to my knowledge. It just came out in Spain, Italy, and Germany. But the funny thing is, the reason why I got the German version is because, as I say, it says the arcade hit in English. Now, the other versions, Spanish, French, whatever it is, they have their respective languages there. Excuse me. So, yeah, so the reason I got this version, the German version, is because that bit's in English. How ridiculous. But I love the box. It's not quite silver. It's a very kind of off-white, kind of grey, really, a very light grey. But it looks really cool. And it's in, generally speaking, really good condition. There's a couple of knocks at the top there and right at the bottom. There you can see a little bit of slight scuffing. But other than that, it's in brilliant condition. Basically, this game is essentially, well, clearly it's a football game, but it's a little bit like, in fact, can you work it out in the back there? It's a little bit like Super Sidekicks, if anyone knows that one on the Neo Geo. But the sprites are scaled down. It's much smaller, and it's not as good. I'd definitely say Super Sidekicks is better, but there's some really nice touches in there. There's loads of moves. You can, like, there's volleys, overhead kicks. You've got, like, special moves, which are really difficult to pull off. I think you've got to be controlling a certain player at a certain time, at a certain point of the pitch for it to happen. So it doesn't happen too often. But yeah, the diving headers in there, you can do like the keepy uppies, you can kick, you can punch, the ball can hit the referees, that's kind of funny. But yeah, it's very easy, unfortunately. I played it through on my very first go. I started off like the World Cup mode or whatever it was. And I just completed it, my very first go. So it's not difficult whatsoever. There's certain angles that I wouldn't say you can guarantee scoring every time, but usually from certain angles, if you get the ball, run and shoot at a certain angle, it pretty much goes in. I guess it does depend on the quality of the opponent you're playing, because obviously the higher level, higher rated teams are much tougher, naturally. But so yeah, it's not a great game, but it's not bad. If you want to put it on for a quick blast of football, especially if you're nostalgic, and into your SNES and you're similar age to me, I guess, or just love your retro games, you may want to give it a go. But yeah, it's not a great game. It's not terrible. It's just too easy, unfortunately, and there's not enough features in it. But it's all right for what it is. It's all right. But also, I will say as well, because bear in mind, it didn't come out in the UK, so if you want to buy this version, then you're going to have to import it from Germany, France, Spain, or wherever else they had it. And it's probably going to cost you around about 40 quid, there or thereabouts. It's not very common, especially the German one, in really good condition. So that's that. And then the last game, before I show the last little peripheral, is a game on the PlayStation 2. It's a PAL game. Now, a lot of you will know, because I'm so nostalgic, I like to buy my PAL games. But in all honesty, with the PS2, I don't really care. I could quite easily get American games. But I've got a PAL PS2, I can play it on my multi-region TV. So because I've got the system, and I don't have to worry about setting it up, or getting like a step-up converter or none of that stuff, it just works straight away, straight out of the box, then I've already got it, so it's just, you might as well just buy PAL games, that's the only reason. So, yeah, and also this game was for sale from an American seller. It was really cheap, about $5 or $6, including shipping. And I've been playing it, probably maybe half an hour into it, maybe an hour, and I'm liking it, it's good. And that game is 007 James Bond Nightfire. So first-person shooter, essentially, again with an element of kind of like open-worldness to it. So there we go, just in case you need to see that. And I love the kind of the light blue background, it just looks really cool. And of course, the PAL spines, which I really like. I know it's very kind of uniformed, isn't it? A lot of people don't like it for that reason, but I do like it. I just think it looks really cool, especially when they're all lined up together. Again, I was mentioning Eddie before with his PS2 games, and I just think they look good. Now, I've only got around about 25 PS2 PAL games, but even that looks pretty cool when they're lined up. Although, as it stands, they're in these little boxes. Maybe one day I'll put them out, who knows. So, yeah, this is pretty good. Of course, it's not the last gen, the gen before that now, game, so the graphics are slightly on the ropey side, but it's still good. It's a good game. I will say as well, the first, I don't know what I did. I must have paused the game, and then maybe I pressed something by accident, and it was straight away as I was starting the game, because the control scheme was all over the place. And in the default, I think the default mode is actually called Nightfire, well, funnily enough, as you'd expect. But then you can choose different layouts, like I noticed there's one called GoldenEye. I don't know if that kind of replicates in some way the N64. It was one, I think, they're all named after James Bond movies. And by accident, I must have switched it from Nightfire to something else. Because when I played it, when I went to start the game, it was all inverted. That's the word I'm looking for. Hey. It was all inverted controls. And it was just terrible to control, and I couldn't figure it out. I thought, why is it like this? To the point where I was walking up to an enemy, and of course, if you turn left, really, you had to kind of turn right on the analog stick. So I constantly got it the wrong way around, and I was thinking, this can't be right. This game is dreadful. How does anyone cope with this? But I persevered with it with the wrong control setup, with the inverted control scheme, for about 10 minutes, and it was just dreadful, because I had to slowly walk around, and then before I made my move, I had to think about it. Like, hang on a minute. No, don't turn left, because if I turn left, it's going to turn right. If I look up, he's going to look down. So it was just dreadful. And then it got to the point where I was like, hang on, this can't be right at all. I'm going to pause the game. I'm going to look at the the menu system, if you like, and see if I can switch it. And sure enough, I stumbled upon the one that said Nightfire. And I thought, I wonder if that's a default one. So I selected that. And then lo and behold, the game played like it should do. You look left, it went left. You move up, it looks up, and yes, that's what I needed to do. So as soon as I did that, it played like a standard, typical first-person shooter, quite frankly, and I had a lot of fun with it. Or I'm having a lot of fun with it. So, yeah, really cheap game. It's not uncommon whatsoever. It's decent. I like it. I've got to be honest. So, yeah, I really got back into the PS2 of late. I really have. There was a couple of other games which I nearly bought quite recently, but in the end, the seller relisted them. If I remember, I'll talk about it on my next vlog. It really wound me up, something chronic. Because I paid for them and everything, but yeah, what an idiot that seller is. But we'll maybe talk about that then. And then last but not least is a peripheral. It's for the Sega Mega Drive, or the Genesis in this case, but of course it's the same thing. And yeah, it's a new pad that has come out. It's is it called Ghost Blue or Clear Blue? And yeah, this is made by Retrobit, but crucially for me, they've got an official license and tie-in with Sega. As you can see up there, where is it? There it is it? No, the other angle. There we go. It's like the inverted bloody control thing all over again. So yeah, as it's got its official backing by Sega, it's basically, for all intents and purposes, just a Sega controller, a Mega Drive controller, and here it is. Apologies, by the way, if the screen keeps kind of jerking back and forth. I don't know what that's about, actually. It's started to do that recently. I don't know if the cache needs cleared or what, but sometimes it kind of stutters, which is really annoying, but it is what it is. So yeah, it's basically just a modern replica of a Sega Mega Drive or Genesis controller with a really nice kind of blue hint to it. Looks really, really nice. So as you can see, this is the 6-buttoned one as well. So that really helps for some games. And yeah, I'm really liking it. It's really good. And I've heard a few kind of mixed reviews on this. There's one or two people who said it wasn't very good, the quality wasn't great. They said it was nothing like the original one. It is like the original one. They're wrong. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. But I guess it's a game of opinions, isn't it? So I really like it. It feels just like, and in fact better than the original one. Of course, with the official tie-in with Sega, of course it's the same. If it wasn't tied in with Sega and it was just Retrobit doing it, I'd understand people complaining. But this is an officially licensed Sega product. So yeah, it's basically just a modern, pretty identical replica to the original controller, and it's really, really good. I'm really liking it. And it's really cheap as well. This is $15 brand new. So I think they're out in the UK. Obviously, you guys over there won't have the Genesis version. You'll just have the Mega Drive one. But over here, clearly, it's Genesis. So that's that. So there we go. There's the pickup vid. Quite a lot of games. Well, quite a lot. A few. Nice little selection. Really enjoying pretty much all of them, quite frankly. So even though Dead to Rights, I've finished it now, so I'm not going to be going back to that one anytime soon. And I guess technically I've finished Football Champ as well, Euro Football Champ. As I say, it's far too easy. So, but every now and again, to put it on just for a quick 5-10 minutes, have that blast of early 90s nostalgia on the SNES, I'll continue to do it. So yeah, Saboteur's really good. Looking forward to getting into that on the 360. It will mean starting it again from scratch. But because I've enjoyed it so much on the PS3, I'm actually quite looking forward to doing that. Adam's Family's really good, like I say, although it's tough. James Bond, having fun with that now that I've figured out the control scheme. Taz-Mania is not very good, but at the same time, it's nostalgic, so I'm kind of cutting it some slack. And Hellfire behind me, yeah, that's really good, but it's very difficult as well. I don't think I said before actually, that despite all the weapons that you can pick up power-ups as well, and it gives you an immense sense of satisfaction when your arsenal's kind of increasing all the time. And yeah, you just feel like a complete kind of, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you feel like you're the Don, if you like you just destroy everything in your way, so or in your path, I should say. So it's really good, really like in Hellfire, and yeah, still surprised it's so cheap. So that's that, and then of course at the end, I don't think I've had this on a pickup vid before actually, so if not, this is the first appearance of that, Psychic Detective. So check out Eddie's channel, description, in the description box there'll be a link to his channel, and I think you'll like it, so yeah, please have a look at that, and subscribe, and he might even subscribe back to you. Not because it's this sub for sub caper, that's all nonsense, we all know about. But you know, if you make similar vids and he checks you out, I'm sure he'll subscribe to you as well. Maybe, maybe not. No promises, that's up to him to do, of course. So anyway, until my next vid, thank you for watching. It's probably going to be next Friday. I'll do like a Friday brew, as per usual. There'll be chat about music and games, and maybe what I've been watching and all that kind of stuff. So until then, next Friday or the Friday after, thank you for watching. See you later.